What is up, everybody? It is your local Ottawa fan, and I'm here to talk to you about the final game of the Ottawa REDBLACKS preseason, the final game going into the regular season now. Again, I'm gonna try to keep this one short, and again, I'm not gonna go too in depth about the game. There's only, I think, 3 or 4 things about the game that I really want to talk about. Okay, first and foremost, we won. A win is a win. Now, the Hamilton one I was a lot happier about. The score was better. We just kind of dominated in that game. This game, not the same. This was like, yes, a skeleton crew, same as Hamilton, but at least with Hamilton, we kind of had our top unit out like halfway through the game. We didn't really have to worry. This one, despite it being not the best Montreal team, it was close. It came down to the wire. But at the end of the day, a win is a win. They don't ask how, they ask how many. Yeah, in the regular season, it doesn't look great. But hey, we also had some players on our team that were pretty good that didn't play. So it does go both ways. But I just want to get ahead of that just to say, I heard a lot of talk of like people feeling scared going into the Red Black season. This being bad, the offense didn't get a touchdown, which like, that's not good. But I also feel a lot more confident going into this game, having won both preseason games, because in order to win a preseason game, you need to win at least one battle, either special teams, offense, or defense. And we won 2 out of 3. Yeah, offensively, we technically won the offensive battle in terms of, I think our offense did look better. We moved the ball down, and I'm going to quickly get into that a little bit later. But I get it. Montreal didn't really have their best players on offense. But to hold them to 13 points and their last touchdown coming within the 3-minute warning, it's good. It's really good. That is the kind of score that a CFL defense should hold a preseason squad to. So that gives me lots of hope that, sure, they played a preseason offense and they got 13 points, 1 touchdown. And that 1 touchdown was the result of a penalty, if we're being honest. There was a goal line stand. 1st and goal at our 1-yard line, and they don't get in. 2nd and goal at our 1-yard line, they don't get in. 3rd and goal at our 1-yard line, they don't get in. Now, yes, there was a flag, and that was a problem all game. Penalties, honestly, for both teams. Montreal was especially bad in offside, but lots of penalties. It's preseason, so I'm not going to be ringing the alarm bell just yet, but penalties can kill a game, so, be wary of that. However, it is nice to see. It is nice to see, hey, they held Montreal, and that last pass interference, it's at least debatable. Who knows, maybe in the regular season that we could hold a team to not a touchdown. So that's good. I'm very happy with how our defense performed, and I think that the Ottawa REDBLACKS is a team that is actually more built on their defense than their offense. Like last season, I think a big reason why we were losing games is because our offense just didn't show up. And some of the games where the score got ran up, it felt like, well, that's because the defense was just playing like the entire 4th quarter. Like our offense would go out, 3 and out. Okay, defense back on. They would maybe make a stop and then 3 and out, and then defense back on, and maybe they make another stop and then 3 and out, and eventually you can't blame the defense for getting scored on when they haven't had more than 2 plays to take a break, before they have to go back out on the field. And that's the other big positive. I like Drew Brown. I get it. No touchdowns. I get it. Alarm bells. But what I liked is, we did move the ball down the field. This score could have been a lot worse. There was a chip shot field goal, which was missed, which is very rare from Lewis Ward. But it's preseason. We're all a little bit rusty. But yeah, Ward went 4 for 6 for field goals, which still isn't completely terrible, but not typical of Lewis Ward, in my opinion. He typically will hit a higher standard, and he was typically put in good field goal range. Mind you, there was one that he got that was pretty impressive, a 52-yarder. That's a CFL for you. He'll hit a 52-yarder, and then he'll have a chip shot, and he'll miss it. But the other thing, and I got my notes that I'm going to go into pretty soon. Last season, I felt that there were a lot of times where the pocket was collapsing and we didn't have a plan. We just panicked, and it led to a sack, an incomplete pass, an interception, oftentimes a sack for a big loss. And I found Drew Brown was very good in those situations. He was able to find somebody. There were a lot of dropped passes this game that you cannot blame Drew Brown. Like, the receiver should have had it. But it's nice to know that we have a quarterback who can find the open man even when the pocket is collapsing and there's not time to figure something out. You need to make that split-second decision. You can't just keep running backwards, waiting for something to happen, waiting for someone to open up. Eventually, you either need to throw or you're going to lose a whole bunch of yards. And I found under pressure, Drew Brown played well and was able to keep the ball moving. And I felt for one of the first times in a long time that our offense was better. I get that. Again, I get it. Montreal was not putting out their best offense, but we moved the ball. We were not getting 3 and out. We moved the ball. It felt like we had the ball for a decent amount of time, at least half the game, which it sucks that that's a positive. Like, it sucks that just having the ball as often as the opponent and doing something when you have that ball, even if that something isn't necessarily a touchdown, it does suck that that's a positive. But that is a positive, because there were a lot of times where, like, what I was seeing last season is like, great, we get the ball for 2 plays. Can't wait to get sacked and turn a 1st and 10 to a 2nd and 25. And then have a completely errant throw, or maybe we'll actually make a 15-yard play, but it doesn't matter because we just got sacked for 15 yards the previous play, so it's 3rd and 10. Great. What a drive. And then we kick it back to them, and they go down the field and at least get 3 points. That wasn't this game. And if we play games like this, I'm not saying that we'll win the Grey Cup, but do I think we could sneak into the finals playoff spot? Yeah, I think we could. And that's the last thing I want to talk about. Expectations. I've been vocal about the fact that playoffs are bust this year. It's unacceptable to miss. I've heard people saying that they hope that we get a win at home in a 5-win season. That to me, no. No. In fact, we can't even accept that. We cannot accept missing the playoffs again. No team in the CFL should miss the playoffs for 5 straight seasons. It shouldn't happen. Pure statistical random luck says that if you've got a 2 and 3 chance of making the playoffs and you go 5 times in a row without making the playoffs, that's not bad luck. That is a systemic issue. And this is where I do think I think that there are quite a few teams who've taken a serious step back. And I think Ottawa's at worst stagnated, and at best actually maybe even taken a bit of a step forward. I think our quarterback situation is way better than last year. Drew Brown and Dustin Crum, I have a lot more faith in than Dustin Crum and Nick Arbuckle. That was most of our season. And of course, yes, we have Mazzoli could end up being the starter for majority of our season, depending on when he's healthy. If he's healthy by, say, game 6 even, those are a lot of games. And Mazzoli is a good quarterback, and if he stays healthy, and that's the problem, it's a big if. But if he stays healthy, if Adams stays healthy, then our top QBs could actually drop a few positions. They might go from a 1 string to a 2 or a 3 string. And the last thing that made me happy about this game, besides the fact that our special teams was really good, we got a return touchdown again, a penalty wiped it off the board, but the fact that we're getting those is good. The last thing is that Montreal scores and I believe it's within the 3-minute warning. We get the ball. We drive down the field. We get kind of to the outskirts of field goal range. We punt it. I don't think we would have gotten a field goal anyway. It was pretty far. But we punt it deep into their territory. Nice and deep. It almost could have been a rouge to put us up a full 7. But we punt it deep into their territory. And then our defense needs to come on in the final minute and make a stand. Stop Montreal. And they did it. What I have in my hand is every game from last season the Ottawa REDBLACKS played. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games that were decided by one score. 3 were wins. Now, there were a few of those games. I went over all of them. And I'll go over them all with you right now. There are some that I can excuse where, yeah, they went in the books as one-score games, but it's not as bad as it seems. For example, the 19-12 Week 1 loss to Montreal, we didn't get out of our own 43. Our last play within the final minute, we were 3rd and 3 at the Ottawa 43. We failed to convert. Still, yes, in that final drive, we could have scored a game-tying touchdown, but I'll also say that we were pretty far. We were pretty far from the end zone, and we couldn't get a field goal to tie it. So that is a bit more excusable. And then we get to the Hamilton 2 in a 21-13 loss, and time expires. 2 more yards, and we would have had a chance to force overtime. And in this moment where we need to clutch up, we don't. We choke. Then we had the crumb back and the Calgary Stampeders overtime win. Back-to-back overtime wins. And I hope you enjoyed that. I guess I should also say there was in week 2, there was a 26-15 loss. That was not a one-score game. And a 26-7 win. Not a one-score game. So we're caught up. Week 8, we play Hamilton again. We get to 3rd and 2 on the Hamilton 4. 16-12 is the final score. 16-12. We get to their 4-yard. We got to their 2-yard line with a chance to tie, and their 4-yard line with a chance to win. We were probably 6 yards away from the postseason. If you look at it, I believe it was a Hamilton played us 3 times, and they beat us all 3. And they had 8 wins. We had 4. So if those 2 flipped the other way, instead of having 8, they would have 6. And instead of having 4, we would have 6. And because we would have won 2 out of 3, that would have been the tiebreaker. We would have made the playoffs. So there's an argument to be made that we were 6 yards and a 2-point convert and overtime win. Because, yeah, we were down by 8 points. But there's a real argument to be made that we were 6 yards, a convert, and an overtime. Which isn't too much. Or even if it's tied, if we win any of these other games. We were close in those games, and we didn't pull it out. Then we lost 44-31 to Toronto. That wasn't close. And this is a game that I really remember. And this is where we start to get to what I really mean about being clutch. 14 seconds left in the game. Ottawa gives up a touchdown to Montreal. And Montreal doesn't succeed on their 2-point conversion, but the game goes down as a 25-24 loss to Montreal. 1 point because of a touchdown with 14 seconds. We needed a defensive stand, and we didn't get it. In the last minute, we needed our defense to make a stand. And we were in basically the same situation. We were up by 6, so a touchdown would have almost certainly meant we would be down by 1. They would have converted on the kick, and we'd be down by 1. And when we were a minute left this game, I get it wasn't their top players. But the defense delivered. They made the stops that they needed to make. Montreal ran at the time and lost the game. I get it's preseason, but last year, we lose that game. And I literally thought, when they scored the touchdown after the flag, I thought, oh, this is the type of game that we lose. The type of game where we have a 2-score lead within the final 3 minutes and we find a way to lose. when we didn't convert first down with less than a minute to go, and we were not quite able to get, we weren't in safe field goal range. I thought this is where we punch it away, and we watched them get a huge play, 60 yards, and all of a sudden they're on the doorstep of our end zone, and we get scored on and we lose. And it didn't happen. Preseason, but it's nice to see that trend hopefully starting for the rest of the season. Then we got embarrassed, 30-20 loss to Edmonton when the Elks beat you in Edmonton. Yeah, it's bad. And this was at the point where we went on, I think, a 7-game losing streak. The wheels fell off. 27-24. Lost to Hamilton. They got their touchdown that put them ahead of us. 3:04 left. It's not quite as bad, but still we never got a good drive going, and close to the 3-minute warning, couldn't get the stop that we needed. I don't think I need to talk about the BC game, the 41-37 loss to BC. Their winning touchdown was scored with 22 seconds to go, and they got 23 points in the fourth quarter. We had a 19-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They scored 23 points, a good chunk of which came at the very tail end of the game. Again, no defensive stand, no clutch. I think that's the biggest thing. We were not clutch. Then we beat Saskatchewan 36-28, and this is one of those not really a one-score games because Saskatchewan got a garbage time touchdown that didn't change anything. They immediately failed the onside kick. Oh, big shocker. Montreal beats us 32-15, 29-3, and Toronto beats us 40-27 and 27-22. But again, it was a late touchdown for us, so we were actually down by more than one score, and we scored a garbage time touchdown. So by my count, I would say there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7. 7, or I would even argue 8 with the final Hamilton game, where they scored a touchdown with 3 minutes left. But even if we say not, it needs to be within 3-minute warning, or even it needs to be within the final minute. In the final minute, we either needed to be close to scoring a tying point. We had to be close to tying the game / taking a lead, or we got scored on in the final minute. How many of those games, of those 7 games, did we win? The answer is 2. And actually, we didn't even win them in the final minute. We won them in overtime. In terms of games that were decided in the final minute, we were 0 for 5. 0 for 5. In situations where either our opponents had the ball, they were losing, and we needed to make a defensive stand, we always fell apart. We always found a way to fall apart. There was I don't know if I mentioned the game against Saskatchewan. What was the final score? Yeah, 26-24, with a 26-second left field goal for Saskatchewan. And the thing that's the real kicker is we got a field goal with 1 minute and 5 seconds left. So it took them less than a minute to march down the field and get a field goal of their own. We just needed a defensive stop. It didn't happen. So I get it's preseason, but at the same time, these are the trends we need to start. This is why I expect playoffs this year. Yes, you look at our win-loss record last season, it's bad. 4-14 is awful. You look at that and you say, how can this team make the leap from last place to playoff team in one season? And my answer is because they were 2 or 3 plays away from being a playoff team last year. If we just get a stop against Saskatchewan, there's a win. If either of those Hamilton games go our way, there's a win. Now instead of 4, we're at 6 wins. That is how many wins Calgary had. That's how many wins they had. And the BC game, and I would say between the 2 Hamilton games the BC game and the Saskatchewan game, you have to win at least 3 of those. At least. You can drop 1 of them, sure. Drop 2 of them is pretty bad. All 4, it's insane. It's insane how we both got to their 5-yard line, down by a touchdown or less. Like a 1-score game. We got within their 5, not to the red zone, not within the 10, within the 5. And we didn't score a game-tying or game-winning touchdown. We had multiple games where we just needed the Montreal game as well. Yeah, there's another one that we should not have lost, where with less than a minute to go, all we needed to do was get a stop. 1 stop, and that's it. It's curtains. And we didn't. We let them march down the field and score a touchdown in the BC and Montreal games, or a field goal in the Saskatchewan game. The BC and Montreal ones are especially bad when there's less than 30 seconds left and all you need to do is prevent a touchdown. You got to win that game. And consistently last season, Ottawa didn't. Consistently, those games always, without fail, went in the books as a loss. But I think Drew Brown, if you put him at the 4-yard line with a second on the clock, I think he scores that touchdown. I think he wins that game. I think instead of losing by 4, we win by 2. Or I guess by 3. We'd kick the extra point. It wouldn't really matter. We could kick it into the crowd. It would end the game. So that wouldn't really matter. It would be a walk-off touchdown. I think that if our defense isn't playing a majority of the second half because our offense doesn't get anything generated, then instead of BC storming back, we got to stop. They almost came back, but they lost. Montreal starts to march down the field like they did today. They get to about midfield, and there's like 3 seconds left. They try a Hail Mary, and it goes nowhere. Those little details are the difference between being a bottom feeder and a playoff team. We have missed for 4 years. So first and foremost, like to other teams that keep making it, give us some charity. Calgary's been here forever. Calgary, just give us some charity and sit this one out, would you please? The Hamilton Tiger Cats, I can't be too upset if they make it because they haven't won the Grey Cup since, last millennium. So you know what? I can't be too. But I also think that that's a team we should be able to beat. A team that's taken a step back this year, I think. You never know. Maybe they'll surprise me. But I think that Calgary and Hamilton will be significantly worse teams this year. And you look at the games that we played, and that could be a difference maker, where when we play those teams, that little bit of them being worse and us just being a little finer on the details could be the difference between if we win by 4 or lose by 4. Whether we give up a game-losing touchdown or prevent it, and we get a game-winning stop. And I think that's my biggest point. I like this preseason because, hey, we did some of the things that I was hoping to see, and we have not gone perfect in the preseason since 2018. 2018. Perfect preseason has been a stopwatch, a timer, telling us just how long it's been since we were last serviceable, since we were last at least a playoff team. I hope this is a sign that the drought is going to finally come to an end. But I do have faith that this season can be different. But I'm very cautious. I've been hurt by this team in the past, but I do think that there are some things to be positive about. And as always, go Ottawa, go.